Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us at this Your Overseas Home webinar. My name is Christopher Nye, Senior Editor at Your Overseas Home and Property Guides. Today, we'll be chatting with Quentin Seller from Chase Buchanan about your financial considerations, everything that you should think about from a money point of view when moving to Spain. It's great to have you all with us, whether you are live or on demand. Now, for those of you live, a quick poll should appear on your screen asking, what are your plans for your future property purchase? Either a permanent relocation, such as a retirement, or a holiday home. We'll use that to guide our content today, so do please give it a go. And if you have a question, and we hope you do, please type your query into the questions tab on the right-hand side of your screen. If you need a reminder of anything discussed today, or you want to share this with family and friends, a replay will be available on the Your Overseas Home website to watch at your leisure. So, Quentin has a presentation with us with him today. So we're going to start with that, and then we'll get onto the Q&A afterwards. So, Quentin, it'd be great if you could please start by giving us a quick summary of who you are and how Chase Buchanan can help our viewers today.
Chris, thank you for the introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Marbella, where it's currently 38 degrees, clear blue skies, and rather warm. I'm Quentin Seller I'm Private Wealth Manager with Chase Buchanan. We operate all over Europe, fully licensed and regulated to do so with MiFID II, which is the Rolls Royce in regulatory systems. So from my point of view, I've been helping people, just over 22 years, so almost all of the century. I've been living in Spain for over 18 of those years, and believe me, I fully understand both the opportunities and indeed the pitfalls that come with moving offshore. As most of you, I'm sure, will know, Spain is made up of 17 autonomous regions. So this presentation is going to be fairly general. Any example I give will be based on Andalusia, where I live. But if people have got specific questions about living in other areas, then please, as Chris was saying, drop them into the chat box, and we'll have a go at answering them all at the end. I'm going to focus mainly on the differences between Spain and the UK. The first one, obviously, the tax year here is the calendar year. The tax system is made up of two parts, both the state and the regional taxes. And as we mentioned a second ago, there are 17 autonomous regions. Some of them are the same, some of them can actually be quite different. And the Spanish will deem you to be tax resident if either you live for more than 183 days in the calendar year in Spain, your centre of economic interest or your business is operating in Spain, or indeed your spouse and children are resident in Spain. So that kind of an impact on people working in the oil industry who travel all over the world, but they want their wife and children or their partner and children to be living here, enjoying the lifestyle that we do. As a fiscal resident, as a tax resident in Spain, there are things that you're legally obliged to do. Can I just say that normally I make these things really quite bouncy and entertaining, but then when you're talking about tax, it can be quite difficult. So the first thing you've got to look at doing is Modelo 720, which is you must declare every year any asset you have overseas. I'll come into this in more detail later on in the presentation. You're taxed on income tax on your worldwide earnings. You have to pay capital gains tax in Spain. For those of you that qualify, you'll also have to pay wealth tax. And the inheritance tax system is completely different to the UK. So income tax, or IRPF, is payable on worldwide income. It's split into general income and savings income stroke capital gains. It is state and regional, and it must be paid by the 30th of June following the tax year. So for 2021, we had to pay it by the end of June this year. Income tax rates vary between regions, but roughly are between 19% and can go up to 47%. So they are initially lower than the UK, but at the end, the higher rates are higher. Savings tax or capital gains tax is split on a sliding scale as the income tax is. And for the first 6,000 euros per person, you're charged 19%, and that rises to 26% if you have a capital gain of more than 200,000 euros. So there's two things to consider here. One is the fact that a tax resident, you'd have to pay capital gains tax on any UK assets or gains from UK assets. And also, the rates can be quite high. Wealth tax is something that was taken out or stopped in the early 2000s, but brought back in because Spain's national debt, well, let's put it simply, if you spent $1 million a day, it would take you over 35,500 years to pay off that tax bill. So again, it's payable on a sliding scale from 2.5%, or up to 2.5% if it's over 10.7 million for the tax year. You do have a personal allowance of 700,000 euros and also a main home allowance of up to 300,000 euros per person. Modelo 720, the reporting of overseas assets, it started with what they called FATCA in America, where America wanted to tax their American nationals on anything they had over the world, all over the world. So Spain brought it in 2013, and what you've got to report is any asset that's aggregate over 50,000 euros. The reporting period is the 1st of January to the 31st of March, the year following the tax year, and it's done by individuals. So you look at bank accounts if you are the account holder or beneficiary, and you have more than 50,000 euros in banks anywhere outside of Spain. You've also got a section for any investments, so shares, bonds, unit trusts, loans, life insurance policy, and also property held overseas, and indeed the rights to property. So if it's timeshare or usufruct, so the right to live in a property until you die. And things to be mindful here are the fines for not reporting or misreporting are not as bad as they used to be. They're still fairly hefty. It can be up to 1,500 euros per item of misinformation. So if you've got any dormant bank accounts that you haven't used for years and you don't report them as having a zero balance, then that can be classed as misreporting. I'm going to spend a bit more time on inheritance tax because for those of you living in the UK, you'll know that you have an individual allowance of £325,000. That can pass between spouse and first death. And then the estate pays anything over that at a rate of 40% before the estate is distributed. In Spain, the beneficiary must pay the tax due before they can inherit the asset. Again, it's on a sliding scale and determined by kinship groups, so your relationship to the person that you inherit from. The scales are from 7% up to 26%. However, because of the kinship groups, if you're direct line descendants, then you pay the standard rate of tax. If you're in group 3, so cousins, aunts, uncles, you'll pay 1.5 times the rate. But if you're in group 4, so if you're unrelated or you're an unadopted stepchild, so people are in second marriages and have adopted, or as you've got children from both marriages, it's vitally important to make sure that your estate is structured in the most tax effective way. The other thing to consider about death is Spanish or Spain operate a forced heirship system. In other words, you don't have the right to leave your estate to whoever you want to. If you have assets in Spain, then you need to write a Spanish will, and you have to state in that will that you want your estate distributed under the laws of your country of birth. Okay, that's come under the EU Succession Directive, which is also known, some of you may have heard of it as Brussels 4. So, what must you avoid? What can you follow? Where are the elephant traps? First thing, all the historic UK tax-free or tax-effective savings products like premium bonds or ISAs are taxable in Spain. Spain don't recognise ISAs. Offshore bonds such as the Channel Islands or the Isle of Man that are not Spanish compliant do not offer the same tax benefits as for a UK tax resident, and in some cases they can and have been heavily penalised. Spain have a blacklist of jurisdictions where they will automatically charge you 15% or assume a 15% growth per year, whether you've made money or not. The other thing to consider is if you're moving here permanently, that if you sell your UK property, your main residence, whilst you're a UK tax resident, there's no capital gains tax to pay. But if you become a Spanish tax resident, your UK property can no longer, by default, be your main residence, and therefore it will attract Spanish capital gains tax at the rates I talked about earlier, so between 19 and 26%. Excuse me a second. And also the other big pitfall is that people who are maybe retiring early, if you, the 25% tax-free lump sum or pension commencement lump sum that is available on a UK pension is not recognised by Spain. So if you don't take it before you become a Spanish tax resident, then you will pay Spanish income tax on that lump sum. And also Spain do not recognise trusts. So again, all the things that people do in the UK to look at the 7-year sliding scale to take assets out of their estate are not recognised by Spain. They look for the ultimate beneficial owner and will tax you accordingly. I hope what I've just said is not all doom and gloom, because living here is absolutely wonderful. So I've been here for 18 years. I cannot genuinely think of anywhere else I'd like to live in the world. But before you make the move, it is vitally important that you speak to a regulated financial advisor such as myself before you make the move. And also remember that since Brexit, UK financial advisors are no longer regulated to offer advice in the EU. So when we have the conversation, what we'll do is review your savings, investments and pensions, explain your options, and again, the next point is, if you are selling your main home as part of the move, make sure you do it before you become a Spanish tax resident. And the final point is, again, please, we can give advice and guide you on how to structure your estate and your investments, as the UK and Spanish systems are so different. So I've rattled through this fairly quickly. I can see there's, I think, 23 questions. So what we'll do is, I'll bring up my contact details, pass back to Chris, and if you want to ask me the questions, let's see what we can do.
Right. Okay. Thanks very much for being such a comprehensive overview there. So the result of our poll, you'll be interested to know, is that pretty much half, 53% are looking for a permanent relocation and 47% for a holiday home.
Okay.
When we did our poll, when we did our last survey, we asked people who are buying a holiday home, are you planning on working from the home? And half said yes. Not only that, but most were planning on spending at least 60 days there. So it looks like a lot of people are going to be really pushing that 90 days and 183 days rule. So let me ask a question based on that. Someone has said here, when I find it, Pauline, is the 183 days cumulative over the year for several visits, or does it apply to a continuous period?
If you spend more than 183 days in Spain, then they will deem you a tax resident. It doesn't have to be continuous. Okay, it could be 3 months, the first quarter, then the last quarter, and 2 weeks in July. But if once you trigger that 183-day rule, the Spanish will deem you as a tax resident.
Okay.
This is different to Schengen and the 180-day rule.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. When you have, this is from Jeff. I'm just going to ask these randomly, so I apologize if you've already asked them. This is from Jeff. When you have a green residence certificate with the right to live in Spain, when do you have to register, or do they contact you?
That question could be about two or three different things. When you come to Spain, if you're buying anything, you'll need what they call an NIE number, which registers you in the tax system. When you apply for residency, pre-Brexit, you're given a green form, A4 bit of paper, or like a credit card size cards that would say you're a resident in Spain. It's now moved on to what they call a TIE, which is almost like a Spanish identity card for foreigners. But it's a very complex area. So it's something that if it's an individual question or a mass question, I can answer by email.
Okay, sure, no problem. Okay, from Lisa, if I live in Spain but work for a UK company, do I have to pay tax in both countries?
You won't pay tax twice, but again, it's a really complex situation depending on whether you're applying for a visa.
Yes.
Okay, because there's working visas are very different to the kind they're getting for like what they call a non-relocated visa, people moving overseas to retire.
Yeah, I guess
there is a dual taxation agreement between Spain and the UK, so generally you won't pay tax twice.
I guess it's a problem if you want to go and live in if you want to go and live in Spain, but you're being paid, but you want your British company to pay for you, or at least to still pay you, whether you got a work visa or not. They're going to have a whole new different tax system. They're going to have to work out the Spanish tax system.
Chris, it's extremely complex.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
There are ways around it. The key situation for this is people who, since COVID, are used to working from home.
Yeah.
So from my point of view from Glasgow, so if I want to live in the rain and wet in Glasgow as an IT programmer, or come and live here.
Yes.
So it's what do I have to do to make that happen?
Okay.
So there are ways around it, but I could talk for hours on it, so it's not the right venue, I guess.
Okay, well, we'll rattle through. Okay, here's a quick one. If someone purchases a home as an income property to rent, say via Airbnb, so they're buying a nice little apartment in Spain, but they're going to rent it out. How is that taxed? And are there other financial considerations?
The rental income is taxed. If you're a non-resident, you pay tax at 24% of the gross rental income. There are no deductions. If you're a resident and you pay 19%, and you can also deduct things like mortgage, maintenance fees, wear and tear, all these things.
And how? So let's say I'm buying that apartment, and I'm going to do a few rentals with it. How do I have to get an accountant, or do I come to you and you'll sort it all out for me?
We're not formal tax advisors. We don't submit tax returns, but we understand how the system works.
Okay.
So nowadays you can get what they call a digital certificate, which allows you to access all the Spanish systems online, and you can do it yourself. But most people just employ what we call a gestor.
Yes.
Who is an administrator who can do it for you, and it just makes it a lot easier.
Okay. Next question. If you pay any tax in the UK, how do I become a non-Spanish tax-paying person? I'm a simple pension person. I'm not sure that's quite right, Jeff. So Jeff's getting a pension.
Yep.
If you pay any tax in the UK, how do I become a non-Spanish tax-paying person?
You don't. If you're living in Spain, you will pay tax on your pension. There are allowances, obviously, and although they're not quite as large as the UK. But if it's UK state pension, then you can get it paid gross into a Spanish bank account.
Okay. This is from Maddie. How does the double tax agreement come into play in all of this?
As I say, you won't pay tax twice.
No.
So pre-Brexit, what you do is that you'd submit your Spanish tax return. You'd deduct any UK tax you'd paid and pay the difference here, a difference in Spain. What's happening now is that you'll submit your Spanish tax return, you'll pay all the tax in Spain, and then you'll reclaim any UK tax paid from HMRC.
Okay. Okay, we've had a few American questions as well, a couple of American questions. Can Americans use a structural change? Oh, blimey, that's a bit complicated. Basically, are the rules for Americans pretty much the same as for UK citizens these days? And do you help Americans as well?
The laws are similar. The system is similar. I mean, nowadays the US have always been what they class a third world citizen, as people in the UK are now. We do have a qualified American financial advisor working for us. Mm-hmm. So any question from anybody from the North America, generally, we can field them to Alex, who will more than happily answer them for them.
Okay.
I'm not an expert on it, so.
Okay. Right. Nigel has an NHS pension. If I move to Spain, where do I pay tax?
In Spain.
Okay. But, so would he just, I don't know what happens with pensions. Unfortunately, I'm not quite up to that age. Okay. Are they taxed at source normally? And then, just like a salary, in which case, who tells the NHS to tax you in Spain?
Well, you tell HMRC that you're no longer living in the UK, and therefore pensions can be paid gross. Any civil service, NHS, it again all depends on the structure of the pension. Okay, so some of these questions are probably best answered individually.
Yes. But
it'll work out that effectively, was it Nigel asked the question, will not pay tax twice.
Okay, it was Nigel, yeah. Okay. Okay. Looking at, we had a question from Mark, who said basically, when does the good news start? Which is a fair question. But so if you give us, give us the big picture. Are you going to pay less tax? Are most of us going to pay less tax in Spain or than we pay in the UK?
That's a really, really good question. In my experience, in my situation, I pay slightly more tax in Spain than I would do in the UK. However, the cost of living here, again, depending on where you live, is substantially cheaper than living in the UK. So your money goes further.
Right. Okay. Good.
So again, it's when we have a conversation with people, we ask them lots of questions. We establish, the current financial situation, and then what they want to happen in the future. And my job is to help them plan that journey.
Yeah. Okay. Chris has asked a few questions about taxes at the purchase of the property itself. I know this isn't perhaps your area, but can you give him any advice there? What tax is he going to pay when he's buying a property?
Again, it depends on the region, but the rule of thumb is you'll pay between 10 and 13% of the purchase price in taxes. 10 and 13. Wow. So if it's a second-hand property, we transfer tax. If it's a new property, it'll be VAT or IVA, as it's known in Spain. Right. There'll be legal fees, there'll be notary fees, there'll be similar in the UK. Okay. One question I had actually from looking at your table was that it said up to sort of 12,000 or something, you pay 19%. But we have a non-tax limit. There's a level before you're taxed. Yes. Does that not happen in Spain? You do have tax allowances, so in a similar way. So any allowance you'd have, that income would be tax-free. Right. And then from then to the next 12,500 or 12,450 will be 19%, and so on. Okay, and so you're not taxed on the first, how much? General rule at the moment is €5,500. Okay. Okay, so but then as you get older, you get more allowances. If you've got dependent children, you get allowances. If your income's coming from one source, you'll have an earned income allowance. So it can chip away all the way down. But the key thing is, living here is wonderful.
Right.
So it's almost an arithmetical decision or calculation whether if I stay in the UK, what's it going to cost me?
Yeah.
Or how much tax am I going to pay? If I move to Spain, how much tax am I going to pay?
Okay.
But then how far will my money go? I mean, I live in the mountains, 40 minutes inland from Marbella,
Mm-hmm.
and I can get a 3-course meal for about £8.
Okay, that's nice.
You know,
Right. Yeah.
it is a cheaper place to live.
Okay. So next question. If I buy a holiday home, I am a pensioner, I don't pay tax in the UK now. Does that mean I pay only 24% on the rental income? Right. So yeah. So he's staying in the UK, but he's buying a Spanish holiday home, which is going to rent out. If he doesn't pay any tax in the UK here, is he going to pay any tax on that rental income?
The Spanish will charge you 24% of the gross rental income.
Okay, fine. Okay. And is one so you say gross, so you're not even able to offset that with
At the moment, as a non-resident, you're not.
Oh, that's interesting. But you can as a resident?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Right, okay. Okay. What advice can you give regarding inheritance tax in general terms?
Just make sure that your estate is structured properly if you're becoming a Spanish resident. So it's, again, a part of the conversation we have with people will look at, what happens when they die, what they want to happen when they die. So you look at income expenditure, you look at where the beneficiaries are living. So if the beneficiaries are outside of Spain, they won't pay any inheritance tax on any asset outside of Spain.
Right.
Okay, so the main thing is property. So again, it comes down to, let's say you've got 2 children. In your will, you leave your Spanish property to them equally. Maybe they don't want that. So we'll generate the questions to ask as a family as to what you want to happen. Then we can advise on the best way to structure everything so that does happen. We don't like surprises.
Okay. A question from Nigel. How is your services charged?
We don't charge the initial conversation.
Okay.
And what I've agreed with obviously property generally is that if anybody comes through your organisation that has a general question, just pick up the phone, my office number there, my mobile number, to send me a WhatsApp or drop me an email. Okay, so we're more than happy just to help people make that journey.
Okay.
When we do business with people, we charge an upfront fee and then an ongoing servicing charge. That can be discussed individually with people should they want to do business with us. Yeah.
Okay. Now, well, I don't want to be negative Nelly, but Jeff is throwing up his hands in confusion and saying he's going to move to Cornwall instead. Okay, so I mean, dealing with a tax man is never easy in any country. Would you say that dealing with the Spanish tax man is a problem, or is it no harder than anywhere else? Really, would it be a deal breaker for most people?
No, well, it shouldn't be, Chris. I mean, as long as you do things properly. I mean, the Spanish tax system is very, very complex. But part of my job is to make it uncomplicated.
Yeah.
Okay, so we explain what taxes people are going to pay and why. If it's again a complex wealth structure, then we work with several cross-border tax consultants. Again, who we can use, and they do charge, but we can use to say to somebody, okay, this is what you've got, this is what you should do with it before you move across here. I mean, the key thing, again, please, for people watching, is have the conversation with somebody like me before you come across.
Okay, sure. I just Googled actually, which is the UK tax code, and at 11,520 pages, the UK tax code is the longest in the world. So, Jeff, it may be easier if you go to Spain. Okay, look, we run out of time. Quentin's details are there. We have loads more information on the Your Overseas Home website or the Property Guides website, all about every element of moving to Spain. And I also want to flag up the fact that we're now starting to plan for our big virtual show, which is it's all held online, but it's just like an old-fashioned property exhibition, except that you don't have to travel to the NEC. It's all done online, but we have all the usual features, and there will be a link there, and you just click that, and you will be able to register for Your Overseas Home Live, which is on 12th of November. So thank you very much, and we hope to see you in Spain very soon.
Chris, thank you. Thank everybody for watching. I hope it hasn't put too many people off. It shouldn't do, but again, it's just important to get things sorted and done properly.
Thank you.
All right.
Cheers.
Bye, Chris.
Bye, everyone.